We are just hours away now from the first official meeting between two world leaders who are already so strongly linked in the minds of many. Donald Trump is set to sit down with Vladimir Putin. Tonight, Susan Ormiston is in Helsinki ahead of that summit to size up what could happen.
A spectacular summer night by the Baltic Sea. You'd hardly know there's international intrigue and tremendous stakes. The Finns are pretty chill about hosting two of the world's most controversial strongmen. They've even come up with a new craft beer to lower temperatures and deliver some advice. Let's settle this like adults. Samuli Hutanen is the man behind the sold-out summit beverage.
Well, I think it's important that, whether it's presidents, just people would talk more. So I'm really happy that they decided to come here.
Shrugging off a diplomatic storm at NATO, leaving chaos in the UK, Trump pressed to keep this meeting, even after 12 Russian intelligence officials were indicted in the US 2 days ago. He's declared he'd like to have a closer relationship with Vladimir Putin. But the protests have followed him. Polls show both Trump and Putin are deeply unpopular here in Finland. Police have shut down parts of Helsinki's center around the presidential palace where the talks will start. But the Finns are veteran hosts for these two traditional adversaries.
President Ford and Party Secretary Brezhnev exchanged warm smiles and handshakes at the end.
Cold War politics brought Gerald Ford and Leonid Brezhnev to this calm capital to hammer out the Helsinki Accords. Mikhail Gorbachev and George Bush met to try to find some common ground.
You have to have dialogue. You need to talk to people, even if you strongly disagree with what they do, their views, their positions. You absolutely have to talk with them.
Will there be anything substantive come out of this?
No, unfortunately, I don't think so. That, of course, doesn't mean that Trump or Putin can't make it seem like something substantive came out of it.
But the real fear is Trump will not press the Russian president on his aggression in Crimea, in Syria, or meddling in the U.S. election. Putin, basking in the World Cup final, seems to have got what he's been pressing for, a place at the table with Trump.
Vladimir Putin is an intelligent and experienced operator, and he will play on Trump's vanity and his weaknesses, flatter him, to see where that gets him in terms of a PR victory, but maybe in terms of real-world tangible achievements as well.
Tricky shoals, but the Finns have a suggestion.
My advice is that, if things get tricky, a couple of beers and a Finnish sauna will solve everything.
A sauna summit? It is that unpredictable.
Okay, Susan, what should we watch for tomorrow then?
Well, body language. I mean, they're both disruptors, these leaders, but Putin is the man behind the mask and Donald Trump is all out there. Now, any obvious warmth between the two could help Putin at home, but it might hurt Trump, given that his party in the country is so divided over Russia. That said, this is a classic case of do you talk to your enemies or isolate them? And Trump has made the calculated risk to engage.
All right, Susan Ormiston in Helsinki tonight. Thank you for that. Back in Washington, Trump's determination to go through with this meeting is the talk of the town. Even some Republicans are expressing concern about what could result. Paul Hunter has that part of the story.
If you're wondering what in the world will come of this, you're not alone. Before he flew to Helsinki, even Donald Trump downplayed how the summit might play out.
Nothing bad's going to come out of it, and maybe some good will come out. But I go in with low expectations. I'm not going in with high expectations.
How this conversation is going to go, I think, will be determined by the two parties. We have asked, and the Russians have agreed, that it will be basically unstructured. We're not looking for concrete deliverables here.
But front of mind for so many back home is the country and leader Trump's set to sit down with. Vladimir Putin's Russia, the country that meddled in the 2016 U.S. election, the leader Trump has praised while slamming others friendly to the U.S. It's become all but a pastime in America to wonder what hold Putin has over Trump. And now here they go. On all those Russians indicted for U.S. election meddling, this advice to Trump from a Republican lawmaker.
Your first request of Vladimir Putin needs to be, tell us which airport we can pick up the 25 Russians that tried to interfere with the fundamentals of our democracy.
Democrats, meanwhile, are bracing for Trump to get played. On issues such as Russian influence in Syria and Ukraine, some worry about that one-on-one meeting that opens the summit tomorrow.
You've got a trained KGB agent who does his homework. My fear is that Putin could come in with maps of Ukraine or maps of Syria and try to cut some deal and, frankly, take advantage of this president.
Not to mention that other recent summit with Trump.
I think if Kim Jong-un can eat the president's lunch, which I think he clearly did, it will be a very easy matter for Vladimir Putin.
Whatever happens, Trump is already predicting he'll get negative reviews from the press. Though today he also tweeted a compliment for putting on what he called one of the best World Cups ever. Congratulations, he wrote, to Vladimir Putin. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Joining us now with his insights on this much talked about summit is the Washington Post foreign policy reporter Christian Karl. Good to see you. So we know presidents have obviously met with Russian foreign leaders before, and they've even done it in Finland. So what is so special about tomorrow's summit? How is it very different than things we've seen in the past?
Well, I think the thing that's most different about it is we've never really seen an American president who is so eager to befriend the leader in the Kremlin. It's become, you know, a frequently observed point, but it can't be overemphasized. Vladimir Putin is one of the few people in the world that Donald Trump only says good things about. And he recently said, made this amazing observation, well, you know, Putin is KGB, but he's fine. He's fine. So I think a lot of us are going to be looking at this summit with intense curiosity to figure out exactly what's going on there.
You've spent a lot of your career in Russia, and I know that you've met President Putin as well. How is this meeting likely to play out for him? How is it already playing out for him at home?
Well, that's a great question. In fact, the Russian media are already declaring victory. There have been a lot of commentaries in the Russian press describing how great this is. You know, Trump has basically come to Putin. And you know, as you know, Russia has been in a state of considerable isolation due to the bad things that Russia has been doing over the past few years. And Trump has basically agreed to meet with Putin with no conditions whatsoever up front. So he's basically handing Putin a gigantic gift, restoring Russia's status as a great power, power that needs to be spoken to as an equal by the United States. And it's not really clear what Trump is going to get in return.
I mean, there is something to be said for speaking to people who may even be your enemy, you know, reaching out and trying to establish some dialogue. So given that, is that why Trump is going ahead with this meeting, or what could he possibly get from it?
Well, look, you know, relations between Russia and the United States are terrible, and that is not good for the world. Of course, we should be talking to Russia. We have a lot of things to talk to them about. You know, the most benign reading of this is that President Trump wants to repair those relations because he thinks that a good Russian-American relationship is good for the world. The somewhat less benign reading, I'm sure we're going to be talking about in more detail later, is that Trump is infatuated with dictators, that he regards Putin as a fantastic, strong, authoritarian leader of the kind he would like to be himself. And then potentially there's the issue, which of course we all know about and has been discussed in great detail, that the Russians may have a particular kind of influence over Donald Trump. And that's something we're all still trying to find out.
Okay, Christian Karl, I've actually got to leave it there. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.